Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of The Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by the young phenom, lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, and of course the coach, former high school football coach at Bernie, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there for multiple stints. Also was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head coaches as well. It is Coach Bob Shipley. Now you can catch his work at shipleyranches.com. What's going on, Coach? What's going on, CJ? How y'all doing, man?
Man, trying to stay cool. Trying to stay. I mean, I don't care where you are. It's 105 plus the rest of the week.
Ain't no doubt. Better get used to them triple digits, man. Better get used to it. CJ, you was out on the road actually in the heat at a football practice yesterday. I talked to you yesterday and you were out on the road. Are you back home now?
Yeah, I'm back home, and listen, Jerry's up in Dallas right now. I think I'm planted right now. Coach said it's hot. I can agree it's very hot. I don't want to go out anymore today. I got to move all weekend, so I'm all energy saved up for that.
Oh, man, that's tough. Yeah, who do you have to help you move? Because those are real friends. You got people to help you move. Who's helping you move?
Rob, we're getting movers. I ain't gonna lie. I'm done moving. I've had the apartment jump for probably 5 of the last 6 years. It's not very fun. In this heat specifically, I said, listen, I work for a living, so I can do this kind of stuff, right? Let me go get some movers.
Man, I'll tell you what, the first time you ever get a mover, you'll go, what in the world was I thinking all those times? That's the truth. That is the truth.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to sit back, kick my feet up, maybe watch some highlights of some high school practices or games, and just put the couch over there.
Yeah, it's awesome. You feel like the king, you know.
And Coach, I'll tell you what I was thinking the first time I got movers, that I was too damn broke to get movers before, and that's why I was moving myself, asking friends to move me. When you get a little bit of money,
that's what I always did. University of Texas paid me twice. They gave me a moving allowance twice.
Ooh.
And twice I got a U-Haul and saved the cash because I was too broke. But now I'm not that broke, and I hire movers. And it is, okay. So here's the deal. You know, my wife passed away. I moved to Abilene. I live on the corner of a block. I met a gal that lived next door to me who had been a widow for 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
We got married. She went to the University of Texas. So that was the first thing off the list. But so anyway, so we just got a contract. We'll close next week on a house next door to her on the other side. So there's 3 houses along our block. So I'm going to get a picture with the drone. It's going to say his, and then the next one will say hers. Then the last one will say ours. And when movers don't even have to have a truck. They're just going to move stuff out of this house, move it next door, get it all set up.
Just walk it on over. That's right.
Walk it on over.
You got to get a conveyor belt.
Yeah, that's right.
That's legit. That is legit. I like that. Yeah, you're right about that. That's some hard work right there. So wishing you the best, CJ. I'm glad that you can save yourself a lot of time, because now you got a little bit more money, because time is money. No doubt about that. Thank you guys for spending your time with us. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us today for this edition of The Winning Drive. We got a lot of stuff we'll get into. The Texas A&M rivalry. There's an announcement coming up, and people are speculating as to what that announcement could be. We'll discuss that. I want to get Coach's thoughts about the injuries at the running back position, more injuries at the running back position. Last time we talked with Coach, it was just one injury, season-ending injury at running back, and now we got 2. I want to get Coach's thoughts about that. Also, I want to get into a couple of things. The Aggies have some new alternate uniforms that I want to get you guys' thoughts on. We'll dive into that. There's some All-American teams being released early on this offseason. We'll get into some of the Longhorns getting some love there. ESPN has a top 100 rankings of their best players in college football. I believe 5 Longhorns are getting recognized on that list, so we'll jump into that. Andrew Makuba was on with Alex Okafor. He does his Behind the Face Mask podcast, really good. I work with Alex on the Third and Longhorn podcast. He's great, does really good work. And he revealed something that I thought was pretty compelling, just about his journey to the University of Texas as a football player. So I want to get into that and dive into it. And StubHub released their recent data on the most in-demand football teams and football games based on their ticketing data and information. So I want to get into that too coming up a little bit later on. So we got a lot to do, but of course, you are most important. So we'll answer all of your questions, answer as many of them as we can. Super chats, they jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. So we'll dive into 16 days also until Texas football kicks off. First game of the year against Colorado State. So we'll talk about that too. I got to take about 16 days till Texas football. But first, how about this, gentlemen? According to a press release, Texas AD Chris Del Conte and Texas A&M AD Trev Alberts will hold a joint press conference in Houston next Thursday, to make an announcement about the Lone Star Showdown in the Texas A&M rivalry. CJ, there was a lot of speculation about what this announcement could be, and at least you put out some information in a report where you know what it won't be. You know what the announcement won't be, because some people jumped to conclusions and thought, hey, this could be Texas A&M announcing a neutral site, something along those lines. You're reporting that is not the case.
Our Bobby Burton got it confirmed, so all credit here goes to Bobby. It will not be anything along the lines of a neutral site game for Texas and Texas A&M. I think fans on both sides of the aisle are going to be very pleased with that, right? We saw years ago how special it was to be at DKR and at Kyle Field. Some of the memories, whether it be heartbreak or fans going bonkers for their team scoring touchdowns and winning football games. That game would not have been as special. I'll say it right now, if it was at NRG Stadium or Cotton Bowl or, at AT&T Stadium, if Justin Tucker would have made that kick at one of those neutral site environments, right? It just wouldn't have. And I say that because what made it so great of a game-winning last-second field goal in which you won't have that game played again, but to have it played at Kyle Field in front of thousands, tens of thousands of Texas A&M fans, it was great. Mm-hmm. And so that to me, whatever comes out of this announcement with CDC and Trev Alberts, it won't matter in the sense that that game being a home and home remains takes the top cake for me. Bobby did a great job of getting down to the bottom of that. I'll go on a rant a little bit later if y'all want to talk about neutral site games, but I think they suck. I hate them. I don't think that there's any place for them in college football except when it's very unique. And when I say very unique, it's split down the middle in Dallas, and it's the Georgia-Florida game in which it's been played since 1933 in Jacksonville. So those are the two, Army, Navy, and Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or wherever they want to have it. I'm down for that too because it's very unique, right? Other times it's, let's go play Georgia Tech and Notre Dame at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And everybody's sitting there thinking, why the hell? How does this match up with anything, right? This isn't a marquee matchup. We want to have USC and LSU play at Allegiant Stadium this year. Okay, that'll be 65% full. USC fans can't fill their own stadium. LSU fans can travel, but who's going to go to Las Vegas to play? I don't know, man. I can't stand them. I think it robs, environments, passionate fans the opportunity to go watch their team play what could be a great rival or a team that they don't play too often, right? What was so special about LSU coming to DKR in 2019? Well, you didn't play them for a while. What made it so special about USC coming to DKR and vice versa? Well, it's been the first time since they played since 2005, right? So it's been a long time coming for these teams to play one another. I think it's a disservice to go throw that out far away from home campuses for either program. Call it a midway point, whatever. I think it's bad for the sport. I mean, you look at the Arkansas and Texas A&M game, right? They hold that up every year since Texas left or A&M left to join the SEC in AT&T Stadium. I've been to a couple of those games. That environment, I think AT&T Stadium in total provides poor environments for college football games. I don't think the acoustics are great, right? It's very large, so it's great, right? You have 80,000 fans. That's great. But then you go to a game there, and Texas fans will remember the Oklahoma Big 12 championship game. It was great. You heard the back and the forth, but overall it didn't sound as loud as what you thought the Cotton Bowl would have been. So I think it just takes away from the sport. I think it robs fans of great, moments and what those emotions could be. So that's my rant. Keep those games home and home. Let the students be a big part of these games. Let the big fans that go to each home game have a say as well, because that's ultimately what makes college football so great is the passion and, just how unique the emotion gets whenever teams come to each stadium, if you will. So I'm all for it. Keep them out of these neutral sites.
And I like how my man CB says, he says, keep Jerry Jones away from the Red River shootout.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. But
I'm with you, CB.
Yeah, I will say that, CJ, you made a really compelling argument. I agree with you. I actually didn't have a passionate stance either way about neutral site games. You have won me over, sir. Unless it's really unique and it stands out. It does kind of rob people rob the real fans of that experience of that home and home. I agree with you. I think you're right.
I got plenty of pitchforks over here, Rod. I'll hand one to you, Coach. I'll ship one over to you if you want to join the protest and keep them at home and homes.
I like that.
I'm Coach, with you. I'm with
Coach,
you 100%.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Coach?
Hey, Texas. It's a difficult environment to play in, but that's college football. That's college football. Georgia has to go to Alabama, and Alabama has to go to Georgia. That's college football. It is what it is. And we don't like playing at A&M, and they don't like playing at DKR. But that's the advantage that you have the year you have the home game, and there's nothing more satisfying than beating one of the greatest rivalries in college football at their own place, CJ. Yep. There's nothing like it. That will live on in infamy forever, Justin Tucker's kick, because it just doesn't happen that, it's an incredible feeling to go in and beat your arch rival at their place, at their house, their backyard. There's nothing like it. So it's just, you have to overcome stuff like that, when you're playing in college football, you have to overcome hostile environments, especially in the SEC. So I'm with you. I know one thing it won't be too. It won't be that Tito's Vodka is sponsoring the game, because I got a good friend of mine that's an Aggie, and he will not touch Tito's because Tito's is a UT guy.
Wow.
And so he'll say, give me whatever you got. I don't care. Bottom shelf, I don't care. Just don't give me Tito's.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it won't be Tito's.
That is it. I never thought about that, Coach. But yes, that hatred runs deep for a lot of Aggies.
And it won't be Bluebell. Bluebell ain't going to be sponsoring the game either. Okay.
I don't know what the announcement's going to be, but I agree with you, Coach, by the way, about going on the road. I actually liked going on the road. I like putting on the icy whites. I loved me and my brothers going on the road, hostile environment, us against the world. I really did enjoy it. I will say, if I'm thinking about the most hostile environments that I had to play in, the Aggies are right up there. The Aggies are right up there, man. They really know that 12th man. It's real. They really know how to have an impact on the game, and the Longhorns will learn that. So I can't wait. It's going to be great. The Longhorns have for a while not had to, like Coach said, they haven't had the burden of having to go to their rivals and play at their place. Got a taste of that couple of years ago versus Arkansas, and you see how emotionally charged those environments can be. A team like Arkansas can play can overachieve and play above their talent level because they're riding that wave of emotion that you get in rivalry games. That's what can happen. And you can be a better team than your rival, but that emotionally charged environment, it does separate the men from the boys a lot of the time. So I can't wait for that. All right, so that's enough Aggie. Oh, actually, no, not enough Aggie discussion. Coach, got to get your thoughts about this. I saw today the Aggies are going to have alternate uniforms. Do we think they're going to have black alternate uniforms for the Aggies? Do we believe they break them out versus UT? Do we see this?
That would be black uniform? That would be such a disgrace. if A&M does that, they're like, we can't beat you any other way, so we're going to put some voodoo on you. And people don't know our uniforms as well. You think Texas is ever going to wear something other than the burnt orange and the icy whites? No, we don't have to. That's what we're known for. We don't have to pull out some gimmick. We're not going all black or all anything, all orange. We are who we are, and we set the standard, one of the top standards in the country in uniforms. And if you got to sink to getting something that's not even a school color to try to throw your opponent off, throw some voodoo on them, then shame on you. You're grasping at straws, in my opinion.
Voodoo. The Yankees going to try to break out the voodoo on us, man. It will be a religious experience for them. I will say that game will be. But no, I get Texas will not. Texas Texas fans have talked about this for years, and you've seen it, CJ, on Texas Twitter. There's like basically the younger generation. They would love an alternate uniform from Texas. It ain't happening. Coach is right. The tradition, the brand, it's way too powerful. And by itself, even as simplistic as the brand is, it's arguably the most recognizable in all the sports. The colors too, brand, hand sign, whatever you want to throw out there. So, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the Aggies.
Now, I do have one confession to make.
Go ahead.
Back in about 2008 or so, I was a head coach at Coppell High School. We were playing South Lake Carroll, who had never lost a district game. And back then, there were only 5 classifications. They'd never lost a 5A game, district game, in years and years. They came to our place at Coppell and played us. We went out in our red tops and pregame warm-up. We went in before the game. We had that all black.
Man!
And we came out and beat them in double overtime to cause them to lose their first 5A game, district game ever. And we pulled out the voodoo on them. And they're thinking, hey, that's not what they came out and warmed up in, you know. And our guys are fired up because they're always want me to wear all black. And I'm like, no, man. I mean, we're red and white. Our colors are red and white. We ain't all black. We pulled out the all black and won one of the biggest games in the history of Coppell High School. And it was a lot of fun. So I got to admit, I've been on that side. It worked for me. So I don't know. I can't say about it, but I'm saying we didn't have the iconic look of the Texas Longhorns at the Coppell Cowboys. Texas Longhorns are who you are. We don't got to change anything.
No, Texas ain't changing that, but you just made a very compelling case for the Aggies to combat the icy white with their own black voodoo uniforms. And now I think you might have named the black voodoo.
Look at it. Voodoo, baby. Put that voodoo on them. Yeah, we did. Coach, double overtime.
Coach, that is straight up gangster. I'm gonna tell you what y'all did. That is a gangster move, man. You come out warm ups in one uniform and then chase the all black Johnny Cash style.
Yeah,
like going to a funeral.
Yeah,
that's gangster, Coach. That's gangster.
I'm gonna tell you, if you know anything about Coppell, there ain't nothing about Coppell that's gangster is or CJ.
Them black uniforms. Hey, them black uniform was, we can call it Johnny Cash uniforms. You know what I mean? I would say when Mac Brown used to start wearing all black, because for a while, remember Mac started wearing like the all black with a little
black
burnt
practice.
orange. Yeah, and I was like, Mac in that Johnny, he's in that Johnny Cash mindset right now. That's what I kind of feel like. You kind of in your gangster mindset. You know what I mean? So I like that, Coach. Now you just made the case for the Aggies to combat our icy white with their own voodoo black uniform.
I'm sure A&M's going to be saying, hey, it worked for Coppell.
It worked for Coach Shipley.
That would be the first thing on their list.
Coach, if they come out in maroon and then switch up on us after warm-ups, I'm blaming you. Because you definitely put the idea in their head.
Hey, luckily, we'll know by then whether or not those jerseys are going to be used for Texas or not, right? I don't think they're going to wear those more than once.
That's true.
And so if you see 10 weeks leading up to the season, they still haven't worn them. Oh, I wonder when that game's going to be.
Yeah.
That also typically lends to what time will that game be, right? Because I think right now it's still in that kind of flex afternoon to flex evening slot.
You're right.
I think, compared to what the schedule makers will have, but there's no reason for that game to not be under the lights, whether it be at College Station or in Austin. Whenever that game's played, keep it under the lights, keep it at home, and we'll have some spooky stuff for around Thanksgiving. Right around Thanksgiving time, right? Keep that game right there. Mm-hmm. Everybody would just fine.
And how about this to end the discussion here? Just to keep this in mind, according to 247 Sports, the Texas A&M game is the most expensive average ticket price among 2024 college football games, and actually by a ways, Coach, almost by $100. It's $625, the most expensive average ticket price according to this study. And they said Army Navy, $527. That's the second most expensive average ticket. So it is a highly anticipated matchup. Matter of fact, we can get to these StubHub numbers really quickly before we move on to another topic. So StubHub does their annual, they release their data and metrics based off their ticket sales and everything for the upcoming year. So I pulled all the data related to Texas and Texas A&M. And it says here that the two Texas teams round out the top three most in-demand teams list in state rivalry. And how about this? The Longhorns, it says here, sorry, I'll start with the Aggies. The Aggies land at number 3 in terms of most in-demand tickets and in-demand program. They said their sales are up nearly 4 times over last year. Their sales are boosted by their top-selling game in which they host the Longhorns. As we know, we just told you that. The game is already outselling their first home game against Notre Dame by 30%. So Notre Dame's a big game, and they're saying the Longhorn game is outselling that game, outpacing it by 30%. And that's at the end of the season. You still got a lot of time to buy tickets for that game, but Coach, the Aggies, they want to be there for that one. Even Notre Dame, they're like, nah, we'll get to that one when we can. If you also look at it, speaking of the Longhorns, on this list, I said the Longhorns boast their highest ranking on this StubHub list since 2017. It said Longhorn sales are up 5 times year over year. Longhorn fans are excited about the season. It said they were previously at number 3 in 2022, number 9 in 2019, and it points out that in terms of the most in-demand, tickets, they have Texas at Michigan as number 2 on this list. They have Georgia at Texas, number 4 on this list. They have Texas at Texas A&M, number 5 on the list. So 3 Texas games, and then they have in the top 10 Notre Dame at Texas A&M, number 8 on this list. So essentially, they have 4 games that involve Texas or Texas A&M on this list of the top 10 most in-demand tickets at StubHub. So best-selling matchups already, and I guess that's a little bit different. Best-selling, they said Texas A&M is number 2 best-selling matchups already, resulting from a conference realignment, and Georgia at Texas is actually number 1 in their best-selling matchups resulting from conference realignment. They said Georgia at Texas is the number 1 in-demand realignment game and has sold 41% more tickets than the Texas A&M matchup. It says Texas at Texas A&M is back after a 13-year hiatus and is already the 5th most in-demand college football game on StubHub right now. So
it makes sense, right? You know, Texas isn't playing Iowa State anymore. You know, they're playing some big dogs. You're playing Georgia, you're playing Michigan. You get Texas A&M back. We know Oklahoma is always going to be a pretty penny, especially if you were a student at Texas and had to buy that for you and a date or whatever it might be, right? You know, I'm still reeling rod a little bit about those times whenever I was back as a student.
I remember.
Man, I'll tell you a quick story. You know, when you're a student, you go through, you know, fraternity, sorority, whatever. You buy a ticket, you buy one for a date. That's all right. You know, you can buy 2 tickets with your student ID and you'll sit in the student section. I remember being on the bus ride up to Dallas one year, and, you know, for anybody that's made that trip, it's a good time. You're having a lot of fun. There's maybe some drinks passed around. The bus driver's got the door shut, so they're not being distracted, making sure that we get up there safely to the hotel. About 2 hours into the ride, we're probably, you know, right around Carl's Corner. I get a tug on my shirt. Hey, do you have the tickets on you? Where are we sitting? Yeah, I got the tickets.
Oh, no.
Oh, I don't have the tickets.
Oh, no.
It was probably last year you'd ever have tickets before it went like fully digital, like on your phone, right? I remember sitting there. So the next hour and a half on the bus ride, I'm sitting there coordinating with anybody that's still in Austin. Hey, man, can you run over to my apartment? I need you. And please, I got my tickets back there. They're in the drawer by my desk. The door's locked, but hey, you know,
there's a kid under the fake rock.
It was a nightmare, but yeah, I'm sure, you know, I probably wouldn't have had.
What year was that, CJ? What year was that? What game? Which game? Which year was it?
I think it was the Cameron Dicker kick.
Oh,
so that would have been an even tougher game to sit outside the fairgrounds and listen to. You know, the stadium erupt as the corn dog chat at the date that won't talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
Was that 18?
I think that was
because that's when we lost to Oklahoma. We beat them in regular season and lost to them in the Big 12 championship game.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could tell the officials in that Big 12 championship game were not going to let Texas win that game. You could tell that from the start because OU was going to make the playoffs if they won. And if they weren't, Big 12 was not going to have a team in the playoffs.
Oh. Yeah,
I don't complain about refs much, but that game was pretty one-sided.
See, hey,
I'll go back and watch that, Coach. But I brought that story up because the in demand at the time, right? I'm sure, whoever I called at the time, they were a good buddy of mine. This year, I'm not sure I would have seen those tickets ever again. They might be taking them and a date or a friend back into the stadium on their own. Saying, hey, we got 2 tickets right quick. Calling me back, CJ, we couldn't have got back in. I'll tell you that. To be in this kind of situation and to see, the excitement that Texas fans have for this season coming up, opposing teams' excitement to play Texas, whether it be, at Michigan, in Dallas, or at DKR, I think it's great. It'll be a year full of excitement, and we're talking about it. We've talked about it, 8 months in a row almost?
Pretty much,
yeah. Texas is going to be pretty talented. So these games are going to be very fun to root for as well. So I'm all for it. Should be a blast. But, good luck to any student that's looking to go to many of these games because I hope you got a college or, a summer job to help pay for some of those expenses.
Hope y'all got an NIL deal. Help you pay for some of that. All right. Before we continue, Jim, let's thank one of our fantastic sponsors, our friends over at Autograph. We are really happy about them being a part of the On Texas football team. And this segment is brought to you by our friends at Autograph, the Autograph app that curates the best content, tickets, and gear to help you fan to your full potential. Being a fan is a full-time job, folks. So Autograph does the heavy lifting for you. From tickets for big matchups to breaking news, the Autograph app has curated content for fans of all things Texas, all the podcasts, articles, and game predictions you could ever want, including the friends over here at On Texas Football. So we're a part of that family over there at Autograph too. The new replay feature lets you get the day's news without the noise for when you need it and when you want it to start your day. Use the code ON Texas, that's ON Texas, to download the app for free on Google Play or the Apple App Store today. That's ON Texas. You can download the app for free on Google Play or the Apple App Store today. Feed your fandom with our friends from the Autograph app. Thank you very much. We appreciate them supporting the winning drive. All right, gentlemen, how about this one? This comes from kind of my man CB, threw this out there. So 16 days until we play our first game against Colorado State. And I mean, CB does a great job of, celebrating the anniversaries and the milestones leading up to Texas football. And 16, the number that, at least one of the numbers that is most iconic and is most, I think, synonymous with 16. And one of the players is, of course, James Street. James Street wore number 16, 2 sports star, undefeated record as a starting quarterback at Texas, national champion. I mean, we know the story at this point. And my man CB made the case to CDC. So I love CDC because he's a man of the people. CDC will respond to you if you got a good enough case. He basically, my man CB made the case that you should retire James Street's number. 20-0 as a starter, University of Texas, 2 sports star, obviously, national champion. And you see right there CDC's response and retort. They said, I do understand your sentiment, Chris. The criteria was set by DKR himself. The criteria is consensus, All-American, and Player of the Year. That's how you get your number retired. I'm not one to go against his wishes, as we have so many players that are deserving, but the criteria is the criteria. The standard is the standard is basically what he's saying, right? Standard. So you have, I believe, 6 players whose numbers are retired at the University of Texas. You got V.Y. Colt, Tommy Nobis, Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, and Bobby Lane. I believe I'm correct about that. If I'm off, please somebody just correct me. So I got 2 questions, 2-part question. First of all, is there a way, because I have an idea about honoring players who you can't retire their numbers, because you can't retire everybody's number. You just run out of numbers at one point. Only have 5 numbers out there, so you're going to run out of numbers soon. So you can't retire every number. You have to have a really high standard for that. So I do like the standard, and the standard is the standard. But there are other ways to pay homage and to pay tribute to great numbers. And LSU does this. I'm sure some other universities do it too, but LSU is one of the schools that comes to mind that basically, and Coach, you probably know about some of these other traditions too, but LSU is one that stands out to me because I remember it. They have number 7 and number 18 are basically special numbers for them. And each year players either are selected or they vote. Not sure which one. I believe it could be either or, depending on the tradition or depending on the circumstance that year. They vote on or they choose and select who can wear those very special or prestigious numbers. They're not retired. They're just special. Number 18 is worn usually by a veteran player for someone who exemplifies on and off-field excellence. And number 7 traditionally is given to the top playmaker, right? Like their top playmaker on the team. And I mean, you probably guys remember guys like who wore number 7. Patrick Peterson, Honey Badger was in that, Grant Gilbert, other guys. Is that a way potentially to honor guys like James Street, great players who you can't retire their jerseys, but maybe you can pay tribute to them? Thoughts?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I really don't. But they have the Hall of Honor, and they have a great shrine in the north end zone to players who have the numbers not necessarily retired, but they are honored. But James Street, so many people, especially people back in the 60s and 70s, realized what he did, and so many of us weren't really huge Texas fans, or even old enough, or obviously even born yet back then, to know the impact he had on the Texas program. And
Agreed.
CB understands it. And there needs to be some way to honor them. But like you said, I agree. And that's also interesting. I'm so glad CDC put that out there, because I never knew what the standard was. And so that makes perfect sense. And the person, CDC is a very wise man. Nobody's going to go against what DKR has set up. And I think it's a legitimate way to retire numbers. And my question is there anybody that has been a consensus All-American and Player of the Year who didn't have their number retired?
I think those are all the guys that met the standard. I got to go back and check, because obviously they would have to kind of retroactively do this, but I believe that the 6 players are all the guys that have met that standard. But I could be off. I got to go do some research. And that kind of leads me to another question: who's the greatest player whose number is not retired?
Ooh.
Guys who are retired are Earl, Ricky, Colt, VY, Tommy Nobis, Bobby Lane.
Ooh.
Who's the greatest Texas player?
The first thing that comes to mind is offensive players and offensive playmakers. Cedric Benson.
Cedric Benson is your pick, coach? Best player whose number's not retired? Greatest player not retired?
Offensively, I'm sure if I did some research, I know there's some defensive studs. One that you played with, for example, who would, number 56.
Derek Johnson.
That's where I was going to go. To be in that conversation, if you're going to be a National Player of the Year, and that's the standard to be in the conversation, I think you have to be a guy who's at least won the award for your position, right? You're the best at your spot. Then you can narrow things down from there, right? Whether it be a Doak, whether it be the Butkus, whether it be the Biletnikoff, and we talked about it earlier this week, Rod. I don't know if Texas has a Biletnikoff, right?
No, they stole it from Jordan.
Robbed of his, coach.
Yeah, he was.
We talked about that a good bit, but Derek Johnson. I thought that would probably be the guy that we'd all kind of circulate to as maybe that next tier, the big face in that next tier that Texas could maybe have a case for. Of course, he had great success in the NFL as well. I don't know if you take that into account at all whenever you kind of, trying to encapsulate what he meant to the University of Texas himself. But I do think you have to be, in the conversation for the Heisman or for the National Defensive Player of the Year award if you're not going to be someone that meets that criteria there of an All-American and National Player of the Year there. It's tough, but I do like that standard. If you want to be recognized as, an immortal at the University of Texas, here's what you got to do. Go be the best player in the country for a given year, and we'll sing your praises for the rest of time, right? Your name will be etched in stone on DKR. I think that'd be great. So I like that it's not something very easily attainable. I think after a while, if you start retiring, jersey after jersey, and soon you're using 00 and whatnot, your Hall of Fame's not much, looking like a locker room of just former players, right? I think it loses its value. So I'm all for it, having that, certain, component in which if you want to make this, elite club, you have to do something that no Texas Longhorn has ever done before, or you have to be the best player in a given season.
My man CB says, I believe they amended the rules for Vince Young. That's what my man CB throws out there. And I forgot when VY. I think VY was in. I think his numbers retired with 08, somewhere around there, I believe.
Hey, if you lead your team to, if you're the best player on a team that wins a national championship, I'll get up there and hang it myself, right? You know, that's
yeah.
fair
But
to me.
at some point, there's going to be enough players that reach that and that have their numbers retired. That, I mean, just think about it. Yeah. I don't know when life on this earth is going to end. But if it's for a few hundred or 1,000 years, there's going to be a lot more retired, and so you're going to have to make some type of deal to say, okay, with permission from those players or their families, we will put somehow a significant emblem or whatever on that jersey, number 12, number 10, whatever it is, that shows that that's a number that has come out of retirement. But you don't have your name on that so-called ring of honor. Put it as Cowboys put it.
To your point, Coach, I mean, the Yankees have 22 numbers retired. And, I mean, they've had plenty of guys cycle through since, 1930s when some of those big names were playing at the time. So the Yankees aren't going to go away anytime soon, and those numbers aren't going to come back anytime soon. So, to have some sort of way to keep the numbers fresh, to have ways in which guys can still etch their own identity and create their own, kind of impact and legacies on, where they play. I think it would be great. But to your point, it would also be great to be able to, maybe go back a little bit and recognize some of the impacts that other folks have had at the University of Texas and in the football field.
Yeah. Especially with a 105-man roster. You need every number you can get.
And we got 3 number 15s this year, so buckle up for that one.
No, but I thought it was a compelling argument there that, James Street, out of all the greats here at the University of Texas, national champion, 20-0 as a starting quarterback, first team all Southwest Conference, 5-time Southwest Conference champion as football player, baseball player, 2-time All-American, 3-time all Southwest Conference period, and 3 World Series appearances. I mean, so if they wanted to do something special for James Street, I would totally be on board for, his number essentially being a tribute that special players, special leaders, they get a chance to wear. Kind of like that LSU tradition that you get to wear the number 16, voted on by your teammates that you're the best teammate or you're considered to be an elite leader on the team, whatever it may be. I think I would be on board for that if it was something that they brought up. Someone says, well said, Coach, who knows what the program looks like in the year 3024.
Hey, here's another thing. I mean, guys, who else has excelled in 2 sports as well as Street? Maybe Johnny Lamb Jones won an Olympic gold medal and was a great player. I don't know that he was an All-American. I don't think he was an All-American in football, but he was our version of Bob Hayes for you old. I mean, everybody knows that. This old, at my age, knows Bob Hayes played wide receiver and was also I think 100-meter champion in the Olympics. Johnny Lamb Jones is another guy who has really done well in 2 sports. I don't know other than Johnny Lamb and James Street, who else would be. There might be a way to award people like that. That's pretty unbelievable to see what James Street did as a 2-sport player, and Johnny Jones as well.
I agree with that. And Lamb Jones, how about this? Number 2 overall pick. Pick number 2, round 1, 1980.
Wow.
I don't think I realized.
Is that right? New York Jets.
Jets, Jets. I don't think I realized that either, actually. Man.
Yeah.
A speed kill.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I played against him in high school, Johnny Lamb, and I'm gonna tell you what anybody them Burning Bulldogs could touch him. I know that.
Yeah, one of them.
It's like floating on air.
Blur. Yeah, man. Them dudes are blur. Trust me. I remember them dudes too, coach. I used to think I was one of them. So I actually played against some of them. And I was like, oh, I'm not like them. Those guys are different. Those guys are built different. All right, let's thank another one of our sponsors before we continue the conversation here. Really appreciate you guys sticking with us. Let's thank our good friends over at Hargrove Roofing. Courtesy of Hargrove Roofing. That's why we get my man Stevie Lee on Mondays here on the Winning Drive. And that'll be at 3:30. Thanks to Hargrove Roofing. So we appreciate them. But they have offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course, the great state of Texas, including Austin, Texas. Hargrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs. Plus, they are Longhorn friendly, folks, with partners like Bert Arbin, lifetime Longhorn, Stevie Lee as well. They're the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. You can call them today for a free roof inspection. That's right, free 99, best price you're going to get for a free roof inspection. So what do you have to lose? You got nothing to lose, but you got so much to gain. Our friends over at Hargrove Roofing, they are fantastic. Like I said, they have offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Know who's on your roof with Hargrove Roofing. 512-645-3202 or visit hargroveroofing.com. Remember, that's a free inspection to have Hargrove Roofing come out and check out your roof. Know who's on your roof with Hargrove Roofing. All right, thank you very much to Hargrove Roofing for sponsoring the Winning Drive. We'll get to a couple of questions, and I got another topic I want to bring up with you guys. This one comes from Ben. Ben wants to know if they're going to be an open practice. That's a good question, Ben. CJ, has Sark had an open practice every year he's been here? Is that an every year thing?
I don't know. I don't know if we'll get one this year.
Okay.
I don't know. I would think not, probably. We would have probably already have had it by now. Again, our media availabilities have been, I think that window for us has come to a close after the first week and a half of fall camp. Now you're getting into the nitty gritty, some of those game planning specific. No more is it just routes on air with the curls, the slants, the goes. It's, what's our base package on the red zone going to look like? What's some of our trickery going to look like? What's our third and long situations going to look like defensively? You're getting more package oriented. You're getting more game plan oriented. I don't think we'll see an open practice this year.
All right. Thanks for that, CJ. Ryan Nelson here wants to know, Rod B, if Torrey Holton, gets open. I think his name is Horton, if I'm not mistaken. He said if he gets open regularly against our corners week 1, how concerned would you be? He's an NFL receiver. I mean, that guy's going to play on Sundays. He'll be drafted. He's definitely the best weapon Colorado State has got. Interestingly enough, I was watching an interview with him and Nicolosi, which is his quarterback, and CJ. Coach, they asked both of them. They asked them why they passed up on $600,000. why they both passed up on a $600,000 offer, and the reporter claims that they both were offered each 600 G's. Like, he claims they both were offered 600 G's to leave, and he asked them why they didn't leave, and they basically said they like the program, they like Colorado State. It's kind of where they want to mature and grow as young men, and that was just their preference. They prefer to be there with what they built at Colorado State. They thought they were building something special as opposed to going somewhere else and helping another team win. So they claim they both were offered that kind of package, which is mind-blowing. But still, getting back to it, I digress. I think Texas will be fine there, but if Horton is hurting them, I expect you to either roll coverage to him, put a safety over the top and double them. They don't really have many other threats. CJ and I did a breakdown of Colorado State. They don't have many other threats in the passing game. And, Coach, when you're dealing with a team that really is going to funnel, 60, 70% of their passing game, try to funnel that through one guy because he's worth it. He's the real deal, and actually can run. I mean, they got him clocked at close to 22 miles per hour in game speed. That's from Pro Football Focus. I just think they're going to roll coverage. They're going to double them. They're gonna bracket that guy, put a help defender inside when they need to. I just don't see one guy being able to eviscerate that Texas secondary like that, especially when he's on Malik Muhammad's side. Now, I don't think they're going to put him on that side. I would put him in the slot, and I'd put him on Gavin Holmes' side, the other corner. I would not put him on Malik Muhammad's side because that's working harder, not smarter. So I expect them to, basically adapt their game plan that way. But I still think Texas will be okay. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the one thing working against Horton here is who's going to be the guy that takes away that attention from Texas, right? We've talked about him. If he's a guy that warrants $600,000 in NIL to lure him away from Colorado State, and we're talking about him as one of the best wide receivers Texas will play in all of college football this year. Who's going to be the guy opposite of him Colorado State deploys that helps take away some of that pressure? Because right now I have no issue, just kind of sitting there, throwing a cornerback at him and shifting over, whether it be Michael Taff or Andrew McCuber or Derek Williams over to his side and say, hey, if you want to target him, you're going to have to beat two of our guys because we don't care what you got in the slot. We're not worried about the tight end. We're not looking at your other guy. We know that he's the one, Torrey Horton, is the one that's going to beat us the most if he gets the ball in his hands. So go ahead and try and beat that with two of our best guys kind of shading over or at least playing man on right away with the cornerback. That's how I would approach it. Make somebody else beat you. You see that all the time in basketball, right? If you got a go-to scorer, oh, yeah, we'll shade a double. We'll make sure that we send help on a screen. Just get the ball out of his hands. And if that's the issue, then absolutely Texas will find some sort of solution there and force Colorado State to find success elsewhere, right? That's going to be the key for them. Who else stands up and makes plays that's not Horton? Because I think Texas is going to have a good game plan to negate his impact week one.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that Torrey chose to come back.
Yep.
After catching almost 100 passes, 1,300 yards, whatever it was, he's one of those guys that took advantage of, the COVID year in 2020 where that didn't count against you. So he's able to play 6 years. And I don't know how fair that is for people. I mean, the record books are what they are. But a guy that gets to play 6 or 5 seasons as a starter, that's he's going to set a record that will probably never be broken unless there's another pandemic. I mean, Jordan, my son holds some records at UT. He had most receptions in a career, most receptions a season, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't play that much his freshman year, and he didn't start his sophomore year until the latter part of his sophomore year. He never really started establishing himself until his third season as a player. But you give a guy 6 years as a starter, and I don't even know nationally. I mean, if he has another 1,000, 1,500 yard season, he could be approaching national receiving records.
Oh yeah.
They better have an asterisk by him because, like I said, records are made to be broken. People don't put that much stock in records. They are what they are. You got to look at competition and all that other stuff. But that would be he's going to have some incredible stats if he stays healthy.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. I watched him. I mean, I really do like him as a player. They want to add the deep ball element. That's what they keep talking about. They want to see him more as a deep threat. That's what he was missing last year. But as a guy that can create separation, he can be a yak daddy, run with the ball in his hands, make guys miss. I think he's a really good route runner too. Texas will have a problem with him, but I agree with CJ. The whole entire defensive game plan is going to be about stopping him. I mean, that's all Texas is going to focus on because they really don't have a running game. Nicolosi's not an elite runner, a dual threat guy. They got one threat pretty much. It's a good one. It's a lethal one, but they got one threat, and that's Torrey Horton. All right, getting to Super Chat here. This is from Rand Rodriguez, LFC. Thank you, Rand. We appreciate the question. He says, Rod, being so close to the program, what happened with Tom Landry and the university that Texas won't or doesn't honor him or recognize him as an alumni? They do. They have, matter of fact, they have one of his famous, what is it, Coach Fedora or whatever? I believe they got one of those famous, they have one of them famous hats actually in, I think it's like in the north end of the stadium. Maybe it's not still there, but they do have one that they put out to recognize and pay homage to Tom Landry. It's not as, they don't show as much love and as much pride in Tom Landry as they should. We all know that. I don't know what it is. For years, people have talked about, did he leave University of Texas, on a bad note? Did Tom Landry, did he not get along with some of the established leadership at University of Texas at one point? We have no idea. I don't think it's any of that because if it is, why is it still an issue? But I don't know. There's a lot of Texas fans don't honor and take pride in Tom Landry, and I admit the university doesn't take as much pride as they should as well. But there are some items that Texas displays so that they can showcase that Tom Landry was a member of DBU, by the way, at the University of Texas. But I agree, Coach. Do you know anything as to why we don't celebrate Tom Landry more at UT?
I've always wondered that, especially back in his heyday, or when Jerry Jones, bought the team and kind of forced Landry out. That would have been a good time to do it. I don't know why. Which could lead to another question. Why don't we have a Ring of Honor? A guy like Tom Landry, maybe, who has done prolific things in his career as an athlete and as a professional football coach. I don't know that Texas has anybody that has made an impact on the NFL more than Tom Landry has as a non-player, and maybe even as a player. I mean, what Tom Landry did for the Dallas Cowboys, as I guess he was their first head coach, wasn't he? Was he their first head coach?
I gotta go check. I'm not sure. I don't know the history that well, Coach. You might be right. You know better than me, Coach. I gotta go check. I'll check on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I've always wanted the same thing. He is a crown jewel that we have not really embraced like you think we would.
He was, Coach. You're right, Coach. You're right. He's the first.
Yeah, I mean, building that program from scratch and making it into America's team, all during his career. I guarantee you, South Texas, down in the valley, they honor Tom Landry because he's one of the greatest things to ever come out of the valley in terms of impacting football the way that he did. But I've often wondered the same thing. Why hasn't Texas embraced and shown that off more, especially back when he was the man?
And the crazy thing about it, Coach, what does Texas have? Like now with Steve Bam Bam McMichael in the Hall of Fame, you got 6 Hall of Famers. You got Steve McMichael, you got Bobby Dillon, Bobby Lane, Earl Campbell, Tex Schramm, and Tom Landry. Tex Schramm was also a lifetime Longhorn, and he was the architect, the general manager of those iconic Cowboys teams that Tom Landry was the head coach of. And it's like, why don't we honor them both? Like Tex Schramm is like one of the greatest football minds in the history of the game, and most Longhorns don't even know Tex Schramm was a lifetime Longhorn either. Crazy. It's wild.
I didn't know that, but the interesting thing is that it seems like Cowboys very rarely they don't like to draft Longhorns for some reason.
Yeah, maybe it's the Cowboys that are doing this. I don't know. I have no idea. And there should definitely be more love shown by University of Texas toward Tom Landry and Tex Schramm, by the way. And where is our Tom Landry biopic? Tom Landry's life was unbelievable. I'm serious. I mean, how about this, guys? He completed a combat tour of 26 missions as like and survived a crash landing in Belgium after his bomber ran out of fuel. That's just one of the things in his life that he did that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we don't honor Tom Landry even more. We should. Anyway, good conversation, good question there. How about this one, guys? I wanted to hit this while we have some time. I saw Andrew McCuba was on with Alex Okafor on his Behind the Face Mask podcast. It's really good. He gets a chance to talk one-on-one with a lot of the guys. And one of the things that Andrew McCuba said that stood out to me, and I believe the episode is yet to be released. It will be. This was on like a little teaser. He admitted that that basically he didn't start playing football until his 6th grade year. So he started playing football his 6th grade year. And what does that make you in 6th grade? What do you call, like 12 years old, something like that? Depending on what year you were born, you're about 12. It is pretty amazing that he hadn't been playing football that long. Like a lot of guys, they've been playing football, a decade or so potentially by the time they get to college. This guy hadn't been playing football that long. And Alex realized that when he was much younger, or at least it was revealed in the interview with my man Alex Okafor. Like I said, I would encourage you to go check it out for yourself. That Andrew McCuba, that basically he was 8 years old. Until he was 8 years old, he lived in Zimbabwe until he was 8. Then came to America and didn't discover football until he was around 10, and then basically started playing football a couple of years later. It's pretty amazing. So I didn't realize that to be that late to it and still be as exceptional as he is. Coach, I'll throw it to you, because when did your boys start playing football? When did the Shipley boys start playing?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Jordan didn't play his first game in pads until he was in the 7th grade. But that was kind of by design. Now that's very deceptive, because we joke sometimes. We see my son Jackson playing ball with his kids, that are like 5 and 7 or 8, whatever, and they're going at it all the time. Jordan started playing football before he could walk, probably, and was catching those little balls that cheerleaders throw. We get those and start playing catch with those.
Yeah.
We'd lay out the cushions down. He'd run down the hall. We'd lay the cushions in the living room, and he would dive and make diving catches and all that stuff. But he didn't actually put on pads and play football till the 7th grade. But he was really good in the 7th grade, but it was so much different. It's just a different storyline because Jordan had a football in his hand from the time he could walk. And obviously Makuba did not have that opportunity. He didn't really start looking into the game, it sounds like, until he was in the 6th grade. And that's pretty amazing because I've always said if you're going to be a skill player, especially on offense, but even on defense, you have to it starts when you're young. It starts when you're out in the street or in the yard playing just a pickup game, learning cutoff angles, learning how to high point the ball, learning how to project where the ball is gonna land. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that when you're young, that's when you develop those skills. Because I know, Rod, I don't know what you started when you started playing football, but you had a football in your hand long before you ever stepped on a field with pads.
Yeah,
and that's the difference.
Yep, you're right. I just started playing tackle till 7th grade, but I was playing street football probably, I don't know, like 10. Started playing street football, tackle in the grass, touch in the street, that kind of thing. And I was watching the game, right? I was watching the game as a young man, trying to mimic Deion Sanders and other players. And although that's very like rudimentary, but you still practice footwork. You still practice some of your football movements, even when you're just trying to mimic your favorite players. And Makuba didn't have that. He literally didn't even have the introduction to watch the game. He didn't start watching football until he was like 10, to start playing a couple years later. I just think that's pretty amazing. Just shows you the rapid, accelerated rate of development for him as a player. And shows you his ceiling could be much higher. Could have a much higher ceiling than we think too, guys. That's
what made it so fun watching him, because I've known him since I believe the junior year of his high school career at Austin LBJ, just training with band performance down here, Bernard Blake in the Austin area. And so you kind of get to see, those steps taken year in and year out, going in, watching him as a junior in high school, then watching him as a senior, and then, now he's a freshman All-American at Clemson. It came quickly. You see him really adopt what those skills needed to be at the next level. The athleticism was there. It was all about the football IQ, kind of getting that acumen there to go tackle and really attack the football there. So it's been fun. Glad he's a Longhorn now. To address Man for Rainbow, because I see some comments. No, nothing new. It's still Texas, Notre Dame, LSU. Just waiting on him to make a decision or make some sort of announcement on when he's going to make a decision. So nothing new.
All right. Thank you very much. Getting back to some of the questions, let's address those. Oh, Lisa Vogel, Mama Vogel's reached out. We got to put that up there. Mama Vogel says, Landry, they don't make men like that anymore. Texas American hero. I agree. I don't know where the biopic is. Mama Vogel, shouldn't there be a Tom Landry biopic? I mean, a movie made about his life. You got the football aspect of it. The man fought for his country. He was a fighter pilot. He's a bomber pilot, and then ended up being obviously one of the greatest football coaches in history of the NFL. And I didn't realize when Coach said that he was the first head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. So, and didn't he come from the Giants originally to the Cowboys?
I'm not sure. I think the Cowboys started in about 60, somewhere
they
around
started 60. And I want to say before that, he was with the Giants, if I'm not mistaken, as like a defensive coordinator or something like that. Yes, he was. He was a Giants defensive coordinator. And I believe at the same time, he was on the staff with Lombardi. I want to say that Giants, they had Vince Lombardi was like on that staff, if I'm not mistaken. My football history may be a little off there, but I believe that's the case. And so that also, my point is, the biopic would be even more interesting because you'd get somebody to kind of give you that background as well. Yes, Giants. Vince Lombardi was the Giants offensive coordinator from 54 to 58. And Tom Landry was the defensive coordinator. That is a hell of a coaching staff, Coach. How about that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And you know, I mean, I know CJ's not old enough to remember him, but he never showed any emotion on the field. The most stoic coach I ever saw coach a game. Never smiled. I don't know that I ever saw him smile, but he is the kind of guy I would think, like DKR, that the players love to play for him. And he's the kind of man who just had that aura about him, that stature that you wanted to please him. He didn't say much, but when he said it, you listened. And he hired great people around him. Tex Schramm's one of them. And he was one of the innovators in scouting players using a system through what was his name? He just passed away.
Oh, yes.
Gil
Brandt.
Yeah, Gil Brandt. And so they were the first in the NFL to do a lot of things. And so he was an outside the box thinker, even though he was very stoic in his fedora. It's all, you know, very well documented, but he was well ahead of his time in coaching.
Yeah. No, I love the Tom Landry discussion here, but I can go on it for days. But I want to get back to some Texas football here specifically. The Juan Davis move. Of all the players who have been reported, and CJ, I know you've been on top of this as well. I want to get coach's thoughts. I haven't really talked to him since multiple season-ending injuries at the running back position. And you reported, CJ, that Ryan Niblett got some work there. Juan Davis got a little bit of work there. We know during the scrimmage, Darian Gillette went over to the running back position to provide some depth there, as well as working at linebacker. Coach, I think the one that intrigues me the most is Juan Davis. In terms of the guys who are changing positions, who could be the most impactful, to me, Juan Davis, I think, could be the most impactful. I think the Wildcat, I think he could be a really good Wildcat option for him. Replacing Savion Red in that role. He's a guy that played quarterback in high school. So I think that's immediately a role that you could envision him in. But then I think ultimately there's so much that he offers more versatility, I think, than the other guys you may bring to that room. You know, we know he can play tight end, and that means he can play H-back. But also, I almost see him as a Kyle Juszczyk type weapon for Sark, a guy that can make you multiple. Literally with his presence alone. I mean, you can go from 11 personnel with him on the field and literally shift him back in the backfield and become 20 personnel. You can start out in 21 with him in the backfield as a fullback. You can shift him up and be 11 personnel. He can be one of those guys to really make you versatile. So kind of way I see Sark using him, I think Sark will be inspired by kind of ways to use Juan Davis, is for him to be, like I say, your modern day Kyle Juszczyk. I've been obsessed with that lately, but a guy who can block for you if you need him to block as a traditional old school fullback or H-back, but also a guy that you can move around the formation a little bit, put him at a flex, put him at, tight end, in line, put him at an offset position, put him in the backfield as a fullback if you want to. And if you want to hand him off the ball or put him in a Wildcat, you can do that. To me, Juan Davis might be the most intriguing and compelling of the prospects you're bringing in for depth at that running back spot. What do you think, Coach?
Well, I think I've seen it a few times in my career where you change a guy's position and put him at running back for the same reason that Texas is having to do that. And sometimes you'll find lightning in a bottle. You'll find a guy who just has that knack, just has that ability to read the blocking scheme just naturally, reading it, cutting back, hitting creases. Maybe we can find lightning in a bottle with that. But the biggest thing to me with our running back situation is it's unfortunate, but there's no way you continue to go live at the pace that you've been going live in practice, because you cannot afford to get a back hurt. You cannot have a back tackle live from now on that has a chance of playing, in my opinion, because you're to the point now where you lose another one and you are desperate, and desperate situation cause people to do desperate things, and it's not a good recipe. So the unfortunate thing is we're not going to see, those guys aren't going to have much live tackling done anymore, but it will help them, to stay safe and maybe be a little fresher, come August 31st.
Yeah, a couple things, Coach. I'm with you 100%. You can't risk another long-term injury to this running back room, right? I mean, it's taken 2 hits already. A third would be I don't want to call it catastrophic, but it'd be pretty close to that, right? Especially when you have the entire season still to go and you're expecting to play more games than ever before due to this schedule and the playoff and et cetera. The injuries to, Baxter and Clark are both very unfortunate, right? The injury to Baxter was a low hit that maybe, ruffled some feathers with the offensive line at the time. That was on grass. That was outside of Dennis. The injury to Clark was a leap, I believe, that was inside of the bubble. So whether it be the landing, whether it be the jump off the turf, something got caught, something landed awkwardly, whatever it was, that was on turf. I know that a lot of folks like to make these season-ending, injuries a point about grass or turf or whatever. Listen, football is it's a weird sport in the sense of you can have great injury luck your entire life, and one day you twist a knee running a route. One day you come down and your hip doesn't feel right, and all of a sudden you're out for much longer than ever before. So it's unfortunate for both right away. But the grass turf injuries, that debate probably, I don't know if it should be held right now, given the way in which both guys were injured this year.
Yeah, I agree. That's not the issue right now with Texas and the cluster of injuries they've suffered so far. But I agree with Coach, and it's tough to do that. But you got to bubble wrap those guys. Do you put the running backs in green jerseys, Coach? Thud only,
no doubt. You have to.
You got the black jerseys on the quarterback. You might as well, right? At this point, they're going to be pretty darn valuable. So might as well protect them as much as you can.
But it affects the defense as well, because now the defense doesn't get the opportunity to track down a running back and put a beat on him and take the right angle and follow through with your tackle. Yeah. You're going to do it in the scout team, but you're not going to be able to do it live against the first team or second team offense. In that, I wouldn't. And so it affects the defense as well. So it's not a good. I mean, it's not, it's not catastrophic, as CJ said, but the next one could be.
That's a good point, Coach. That's going to have a domino effect on the way that you, obviously, the way you execute your practices and the scout team, and maybe some of those younger guys, you give them a lot of the bulk of the reps. Maybe they can go live to give the defense a good look. But like you said, you need that depth right now at this point, too. Going to be really interesting to see how Sark navigates that issue. All right, getting back to some of the questions. I know we're getting close to the end of it here. Hookem Baby says, I thought it was interesting that Trey Wisner isn't a college football fan. Never grew up watching it and still doesn't. Hookem Baby, thank you for the question. You'd be shocked how many guys I talk to who don't like football. They don't watch football like that. They play it.
Right, I was going to say the exact same thing.
Right? Sorry, you talk to these guys, CJ, more than I do. Isn't it shocking how some of them, they're just not football fans at all?
It's crazy. I talk to recruits all the time. Hey, so who'd you grow up a fan of? I don't watch the sport. I'm just good at catching passes. I'm just good at tackling the running back. What do you mean you don't watch this sport? You're going to go play it for free at the next level. Like, you have a chance to go make millions of dollars off of this. Yeah. No, man, I don't root for any team. I might like a few players here and there, but, Sundays I'm outside in the creek. Sundays I'm outside shopping. I don't really have time to sit down and watch it. I'm like, what in the world? From crazy. Saturday to Sunday, I maybe take 200 steps, and that might just be back to the fridge or to the bathroom, right? I'm planted. I'm horizontal all day, watching 12 hours of Scott Hansen nonstop commercial-free football. I can't believe that. Every time I hear that, I kind of sit back and say, whoa, wait a minute here.
Yep. It is. It's weird because I enjoyed, as a kid, and I realized later, the mental reps of like when I watch a game now, I can't help but watch it, Coach, like a player. I can't help but watch it. Why in cover two? Why is he not sinking back with that number 2 receiver? Why did he not get a jam and get that guy inside? Well, if he's in cover 4, why did he let that guy be behind him? He's supposed to be reading number 2. Like, I'm going through mental reps of my coverages and what the responsibilities are in my head as I watch the game. And I think that makes you a smarter football player. My theory. I got a lot of theories, but one of my theories as to why people are becoming worse drivers, right? I think driving in our society is getting worse every day. And why is it getting worse? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the main reasons, I think the number one reason is probably people are distracted on the damn phone all the time, right? That's the number one reason. All right. The number 2 reason that drivers are getting worse in our society, no mental reps. Think about this. When you were a kid, CJ, I don't even know about you because you're a little bit younger, but when you were a kid and you were in the car with your parents, what did you have to do? Watch what your parents were doing. You watch them drive. Like you weren't on your phone, you weren't on a laptop or some tablet. You were sitting in the back, listening to whatever mom and dad were listening to in the car, and then you were watching them drive, watching Pops put on the signal, watching the way he turned, watching the way that they observe the rules of the road. Kids don't do that these days. They don't take a mental rep at all when they're watching their parents drive. They sit in the back seat on their damn phone, and they don't learn to drive until they actually start learning to drive. No mental reps at all. And I think in football, I would prefer my players taking mental reps, watching football constantly. It makes me a little uneasy when guys are like, I don't watch football at all. I'm like, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that answer. What about you, Coach?
Well, let me tell you, I got a good story with that. A lot of these kids are so focused on their high school and their career and their training. I know, for example, Jordan, he liked to watch videos of his favorite receivers, which were Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
And when Jordan got drafted, I've told this story before. We were out at a ranch, and Jordan was a little nervous. He was in a little bass buster boat fishing out on this lake on this ranch, and my wife and I and a few select friends were in the ranch house watching the draft live. And Jordan comes in and he goes, "Hey, I just got drafted." And then they announced it. And well, before they announced it, I said, "Cool." He said, "Yeah, I got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. I just got off the phone with the head coach." And I said, "All right, what's his name?" And he said, "I have no idea."
Oh no! Hey, you lost Coach there for a second. That was a great story. I don't know. I have no idea who the head coach is. I want to think who's the head coach. Who's the head coach back then? I got to go think about it now. When my man George Shipley was drafted by Cincinnati. All right, before we get Coach back, let me thank our good friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery.
Was it Marvin Lewis?
Huh? Yes,
Marvin
I think you're
Lewis?
right. It was. Yes, it had to be right. Marvin Lewis was there forever, so you're right. It had to be
for the
Marvin
win
Lewis.
Down there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it had to be Marvin Lewis. You're right about that. All right, let me thank our good friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery really quickly. We'll get Coach back. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin, folks? That's right, Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local spec, so give it a try today, please. Also, it's available at your local Central Market. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other, or it's perfect for a weekend getaway with your significant other. Check it out for yourself, flatcreekestate.com. You can check out their great inventory, but you also can go check out the venue. Beautiful venue. I've been there myself. Can't wait for another weekend getaway with wifey. She loves the wine. I love the venue. I also like the wine too. The rosé is fantastic. One of the best and most refreshing that I've had. But the Super Texan, folks, it is as advertised. It's one of the best wines that you will ever taste. My wife loves it. You'll love it too. Go check it out for yourself. flatcreekestate.com. All right. Let's get back. Oh, there's Coach right there. Hey, great story, Coach. That was a great story. That was, I think it was Marvin Lewis.
Well, the end of the story is he gets drafted by the Bengals, and he's playing slot receiver, and Chad Ocho Cinco's on one side, and Terrell Owens is on the other side.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love that. I didn't even think about that, but he did play with
Carson Palmer was a quarterback. So
wow.
Yeah, pretty fun time.
That's it's always good when you get to like actually play with your heroes in the league, because he looked up to Ocho Cinco and Terrell Owens. I played with Jerry Rice and Champ Bailey, and half the time I'm just like a schoolboy, some fanboy, following him around, even getting in conversations about football with those guys that you grew up watching. It is very surreal. So that's a really cool story, Coach. All right, a couple of other questions, and then we'll get out of here. Jose wants to know, Rod, who do you think leads us in tackles this season? Do you think it might be a DB like in the past? Yeah, the only thing that's going to hurt the DBs from leading us in tackles, they rotate them so much. They're not on the field constantly. I think it's going to be Anthony Hill.
Yep. That's going to be the one reason that hurts the DB's case, Rod, is that big man up front, number 0. It's going to be Anthony Hill. He'll be your leader in tackles. I say that pretty confidently with the way that he ranges sideline and sideline. He'll be the focal point of that defense. He'll be put in positions to excel and clean up messes, just like Jalen Ford was as well. So it's going to be, I want to say almost without question, Anthony Hill's my odds-on heavy favorite to lead the team in tackles.
I have to agree, but let me ask this question. What kind of year what kind of year are you going to have if you've got a guy in the secondary, your leading tackler?
Guys, I mean, depends on if he plays in the box a lot, but you're right, Coach. That means a lot of guys, I guess, got beyond the box. They got beyond the second level. That's true. You're right about that. I want to say every now and then, but for the most part, Coach, I think you're right. I don't think I've ever been on a defense where the safety led the team in tackles. To your point. Not a good one. All right. Michael here has a question. Is it unreasonable to expect Gibson to have a similar freshman season to Baxter? They are both big, strong, downhill runners with similar recruiting profiles. CJ, you're the recruiting expert here. I'll let you take that one. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. It would be great for Texas if so, but again, and I go back to this because I keep notes on every season, right? Around this time, what was going on a year ago? At this time, 2 years ago, this time 3 years ago. The one constant around this time a year ago was we were hearing about CJ Baxter and his impact, or what we were expecting him to be on the field, the same way that we're hearing about Ryan Wingo at wide receiver. Even with all of these guys in the wide receiver room that you're hearing about with experience, with production, with game tape elsewhere, coming all in. And yet one of the biggest constants is Ryan Wingo's a guy that you're not going to be able to keep off the field. So I'm not saying Jarrett Gibson can't be that. I'm just saying I think that there were different levels of expectation and hype at this point in the fall. You know, this 2.5 weeks away from kickoff number one is we were hearing about CJ Baxter maybe winning the starting job over a guy who's been at Texas for 2.5 years already, right? That wasn't necessarily the case with a couple other guys maybe, at the position beforehand. And again, I'm not saying Jarrett Gibson can't have a big part of this offense. He's going to have to be. But I don't know if he was up to that level of which CJ Baxter was at this point a year ago as a true freshman. Again, it's very rare for guys to step in right away and beat out guys who have been on college campuses for 3 years. And yet we're hearing about it from CJ Baxter a year ago, and we're hearing about it right now from Ryan Wingo. And I think that goes more to say that, these 5-star guys are 5 stars for a reason, right? You can say stars don't matter and all that, yada, yada, yada. But at some point, there's a reason why they have those 5 stars. And a lot of that has to come with the physical maturity and the way in which they play the game, not to mention the talent. So I would hope so. To answer your question, Michael, I would love that to be the case for Gibson. It would be great for Texas. If so, I don't know. I think his ceiling year one might be a little bit more shallow than what we saw from Baxter last year.
All right. Good stuff there. Good place to leave it. Let's thank our final sponsor for the evening, our good friends over at South Point Dodge. Longhorn fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. You can score big today at South Point Dodge because they also have a great deal happening right now. You can get a great deal on their Ram 2500s. They have 50 of them right now, all marked down with huge savings just for you. Get on over there to southpointdodge.com, or you can go see them in person off I-35 in South Austin. That is South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything, and your one-stop shop for all of your truck needs. southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. Thank you very much for sponsoring the Winning Drive. We really appreciate that as well. All right. Thank you guys for all of your questions. Really appreciate you guys and your participation today. It's been a great show. I want to thank my man Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP, folks. We could do a show without him, but it would suck. I can tell you that right now. He's amazing. I want to thank Coach Bob Shipley for everything you do, Coach. We appreciate the wisdom as always. Thank you, CJ, for all your hard work. Thank you guys for joining us, man. Thank you guys for helping us build this Longhorn community. Really excited. 16 days and counting until we get to game one for Texas. And let's thank our sponsors one more time. Thank our good friends over at Autograph, the Autograph app, South Point Dodge, Hardgrove Roofing, and of course, Flat Creek Estate Winery. Remember, tomorrow you'll have coffee and football starting starting at 8. We'll have our live stream on Fridays, but that's a 1 o'clock live stream on Fridays. And of course, you want to stick to On Texas Football for all things related to Texas football, no matter if it's on TexasFootball.com or checking out the YouTube channel. Oh, while we're at it, now is a great time for you to join the On Texas Football family. Thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate that. Always reminding us to do our jobs. On TexasFootball.com, become an OTFOG. Talk with us each and every day. Get your questions answered. Plus, there's even more news and commentary. Join us over at OnTexasFootball.com. Great special right now. You can get $20 off your annual subscription to the site if you use the code OTFOG. That's a $60 subscription you get for $39.95 with that OTFOG code. Thank you very much, Matthew. We appreciate you. Thanks, CJ. Thanks, Coach. For Matthew behind the scenes, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers for the On Texas Football family. Until next time, hook 'em horns.